Hello, this is my Cardboard Edison game submission for Die in the Dungeon. Die in the Dungeon is a solo game of dynamic dungeon crawling where you are the dungeon monster. You're going to be a powerful creature, so used to being in control, others in constant fear of you, but without warning you're taken away from your lands by a spell, cast by a mighty wizard that even you could not stop. Now you find yourself in an unknown dungeon, full of weaker monsters and annoying adventurers. You decide to find your way out of this dungeon, hoping to destroy anything that gets in your way. So in this game, you're going to have the chance to play one of three different playable creatures. There's the Troll of Bones, the Die Roller, and the Daemon, or Demon with a Die. I think you kind of get the theme as it goes through. That playable character will have 4 unique ability cards, 2 unique permanent abilities, and a stat bar that represents their game. And the whole idea behind the game is about dice. So in this game, you're going to have 2 dice that are predetermined. Your time die is a d20, your ability die is a d4. But then you're going to have 4 dice that you get to place as you wish. A d6, a d8, a d10, and a d12 will become your might, your agility, your magic, and your health. And so when you start the game, you get to choose where they all go. I've already pre-placed them there to save some time. But not only that, the dungeon is variable as well. So if we look at the purpose of the game is to go through the dungeon, and as you travel through here, you're going to encounter heroes to defeat, with your real goal to be defeating the epic party members that would be randomly placed at the end of the dungeon. So you might mix them up, and the dungeons will change. I'll talk about that. But your goal is to defeat all 3 of them if you can survive that, which is quite hard. Solo games are challenging. And so you can set that up in different ways. For example, here's another version of a dungeon map, and I'll have multiple of these in the actual board game so that each game could be set up in a different way to enjoy an alternative experience, also with different creatures, the 3 creatures that you can see. So, purpose of the game, defeat the epic heroes or epic parties by traveling through the dungeon and building up your character. So you can actually build up your stats through collecting icons and through collecting what I call Dominions, which will be extra rolls that you can use in combat when you collect them. All right, what else can I tell you about the game? Well, I talked about the playable characters, talked about the stats, so let's talk about the heroes. You're going to be defeating heroes in this game. There's 4 different types of the base heroes: wizard, warrior, rogue, and cleric, traditional characters you might see in a fantasy setting. And then there's a couple of epic heroes. So the epic heroes will be leading those epic parties. So there's a paladin, an assassin, a warlock, and a patriarch. And each of those have their own stats. But what happens is when you encounter creatures in the dungeon, so for example, if you were to go on this tile, you would face off against a warrior and a rogue of level 1, you can see on there. You would have to fight those particular cards. Now getting into combat, well, you can see that in the rule book. It always takes a while to describe combat, but the concept is actually pretty simple once you read it. It's just a matter of rolling my stat die against theirs, against their result, and determining who the victor is. But the real aspect of this game is how the stat bar works and how the dice are managed. It comes with 3 sets of polyhedral dice, one of which is used for the stat bar that we talked about, the others of which are used for either upgrading your dice when you acquire certain tokens or tiles, and for combat itself. Anytime you take damage in this game, you can take damage to your health, but you also have the option to reduce what you were attacked with. So if a wizard attacks you with magic, you could actually reduce your magic stat die instead of taking health damage. So a way to kind of control where your fate lies. In addition, you can manipulate your dice by impacting your die rolls. So if I were to attack with my magic and I rolled an 8, but I really needed to get a 9, I could actually reduce my magic score down to 11 permanently to boost that to a 9. So you can manipulate your dice in different ways, both for defense and for offense. I can share today, but Die in the Dungeon does have a 2-player variable that I've worked on, and it also has an endless dungeon mode that I'm working on, so that you don't necessarily have to play with tiles. But really the core concept of the game is go through the tile-laid dungeon, facing random encounters and effects that will take place in the dungeon before coming across those epic parties, which are really powerful, and you kind of have to build yourself up to defeat. So I hope you like what you see, and I look forward to hearing some feedback about the game.